was putting on insect repellent one day when I noticed a warning on the side of the bottle that said, "Do not spray in your eyes." I don't think the manufacturers think that someone is silly enough to just spray insect repellent in their eyes. I don't think that's what they're going for there. I think what they're trying to say is that this is a dangerous substance. Like, it's going to hurt if you get it in your eyes. It's not going to be good for you if you do that. And so just be cautious with this. You know, it's something you ought to handle with a little care. This week's sermon is similar in that way because I have a topic that I want to talk about, and it's not motivated by anything that's going on. It's just a good reminder. We're going to talk about Jesus's parable about the log and the speck. If you're unfamiliar with that parable, it's a story about judging, and it actually starts out, "Do not judge." And so sometimes people have taken that and they've run away and said that we can't have an opinion about anything. Well, that's not what Jesus means here. On the other hand, sometimes people think we as Christians should have an opinion about everything because we know right from wrong, and it becomes very easy to become judgmental. So this story about the log and the speck is going to be really important to us today because judging is one of those things that you ought to handle with care. Judging is one of those things that you ought to do very cautiously when you do it at all. So Jesus' parable is going to give us a couple of steps to think about, a couple of ways to go about that, and a couple of things to do before we become really judgmental about anything. And in a world that lives with judgment all the time, and social media is just everybody has an opinion, this is a good reminder for us about how to do things, what to think about, and why it's important. The sermon is called "The Problem Is Not Out There." What Jesus' parable about the log and the speck says about judging and why we need that now. It's going to be a good reminder. It's going to be useful. It'll give you something to think about. If you're coming to Bible study at 10 o'clock, we're in Acts chapter 18. We're going to start reading in verse 18. The Apostle Paul is in the city of Ephesus, and lots of things are happening here. In fact, oddly enough, just the way it worked out, the first story we're going to read is about how Aquila and Priscilla correct someone. They feel that someone is off base in their teaching, and they correct him in a very certain way. We're going to look at that because that's really important. It ties into our lesson about judging and how we treat one another. How do you correct somebody? And how do you do that well? That's part of that lesson. And then we're going to see that responses are necessary. It's okay for us to know things and believe things and say we agree with stuff, but at some point we have to respond, and that's what Paul's going to teach in this chapter too. Lots of things in here to talk about, lots of things that are going to be really good. I know that baseball playoffs are on this weekend. I know that people are camping this weekend. I know the summer has begun. People are everywhere, but I'm hoping to see you on Sunday. That would be great. It's going to be a really good day. Bring your friends. Be a good Sunday for them to come and see what this is all about. We'll see you there.